Hey, good morning. It's on Musings episode number 346. You're back with just Scott and I this week.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you to Randy Zimmerman for joining us last week. If you missed it, go check out the episode. It was fun.
Yeah. And I forgot to tell Scott, but in a couple weeks, we're going to have Sean Forney on.
Oh, nice.
Who and I talked. Let me see here. I think it's going to be, I want to say April 12th. I have to double check that. I was working while we were texting, so you get lost. Here we go. April 10th.
All right. In about a month.
Yeah, he's got a new Kickstarter about to launch. So we're going to talk to him about that. Catch up with him after WonderCon, as well as anything else he's done since then.
He's got, I'm sure you saw the murals of his Scarlet Huntress has been put up.
Yeah. He's had pages from his comics up in the convention center there in Columbus, and now he's got some murals. A lot of great stuff going on with his creator-owned projects, his IP, intellectual property.
Yeah, so that's cool really stuff. Awesome. It looks spectacular.
So. All right. So, hey, let's knock out our ad read real quick.
All right. We got Team Titans of Real Estate. Why? Because you matter. That's right. Even though we utilize the latest in tools and technology to maximize your home buying and selling experience, we never forget at its core, it's a people business. And we put relationships first. We always make you our number one priority. And that really matters, especially nowadays. It's so easy. I'll talk to people who've had very negative experiences in the past with other realtors, and usually it comes down to a very common thing is the realtor was never available, didn't make them a priority. Everything was through text messages at best. They call and get voicemail, and the voicemail's full. So it's amazing how disconnected so many people are just in society as general. But we don't do that. Jill and I, we make you our priority. Between the two of us, we work together on every deal, and between the two of us, one of us is always available, and we get things done for you. And that's what it's all about. So give us a call, 586-232-5144. That's our team hotline. And consultation is free. It costs you nothing. Just give us a call. We walk you through the steps. We get to know you, find out what your goals and priorities are as well. And help you achieve those goals. It's going to be needed this year. It's ramping up already. One study said over the last few years, 73%, I think it was in the 70s, 73% of potential home buyers over the last few years dropped out of the market because interest rates were too high. The payments became too much. And, the different factors. Well, because interest rates are on the way down now, they're projecting that 73% to be surging into the marketplace here. And spring's just right around the corner next week. Spring and Easter are when people tend to come back. So that 73% is going to come surging back in. Plus, we have the demand that's going to be a typical demand for the year anyway. So it's going to be a competitive market out there. So get the competitive edge. Call Team Titans. We'll help you out.
Excellent. And we don't really have any other sponsors, but I'm going to promote our Bardstone.com because while we did finish up the Kickstarter here recently, there'll be some other opportunities to eventually get the trades from us, as besides appearances once we have them in stock. Scott's been hard at work formatting and getting everything ready and sending off, and blood, sweat, tears, and paper cuts. Not really, because it's all digital. But yeah, so right now, though, you can still, when you see me next weekend at the Indiana Comic-Con, Kevin will be there as well. We'll have the Crimson Shadows on my table. We will have Creatures and Creators with Kevin. We will have Poe with Kevin. So, and Wretched Realms probably split between the two of us because we both have copies. I know I have at least a few there. Even if they're not on the table, you can ask about that because we get limited table space in that. But look for Bardstone.com. We'll be actually listed, I believe, under our personal names. So Brett Pinson and Kevin Minert at Indiana will post that online.
That's awesome.
And that's, but yeah, check out our Bardstone. We're proud of all the work we've done, and we've got a lot more stuff to come from you down the road here.
Yeah, definitely. We're moving forward. And I'm excited to see where the future goes with our different titles. And thank you to all of you who've sponsored us in the past. Without you guys, we wouldn't be where we're at now with these titles. So thank you.
Yeah, it's like it was a Benjamin, I believe it was, from Elkhart, brought all his books by to have us sign them. So if you've gotten Kickstarter books from us and you haven't gotten them signed, you can find us at the shows and we'll sign them for you. Heck, won't even charge you if you bring them to us, but we will try to sell you more stuff.
Yeah, if you're missing on certain covers or past issues, Brett and Kevin will have them in Indiana.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And that. So, Scott, what have you been up to this week?
Uh, it's been a busy week. For us, I was just talking about real estate. One of the things where it helps to have a realtor is when things do go bad. We had a deal where we had some heavy rains a few weeks back, and there was flooding, and lots of things needed to be taken care of that our seller had to take care of. It's been quite the ordeal, but we've been managing that whole process for our client, and everything's almost done and getting fixed so that we can bring it to close in a week or two. So
Okay.
just been busy doing that. Been busy with the Bardstone stuff, as Brett and I have discussed off air. Um, when you're an artist, you draw and you move on, but we are actually publishers as well. And so that's been a whole learning curve over the years of how every single printing company out there has its own templates and criteria for how you have to format everything. So it's like I feel like this book I'm never ending reformatting because we've got a couple different sources I have to provide the information to. So
Yeah.
right now I'm prepping it for Drive Through Comics, which is our online distributor. So I'm prepping the files for that one now. I've already prepped it for our printing company, and so it's just it's a lot. It's very
Yeah.
tedious, and I'm just sitting there going, "But I want to start drawing the next book, but I can't. I gotta get this done."
Oh, yeah. Well, that's yeah. It's always that work. It's like with the Kickstarters, how much work goes into those. Like people don't realize, there's a lot of work afterwards. Not just because you got the money. It's like, oh, hey, I got the money. Now what? Yeah, got to, like you said, got to format the book. We then got to order the book. You got to
Yeah.
get the book. You got to ship the book. Got to do this and that. It just adds up time after a while. So,
Yeah,
and
and,
then
and as far as success goes with the Kickstarter stuff, we're at that level where we're making enough to do the projects, but we're not hitting that next tier level. We got to get up to like 10,000. If we can if all you guys watching, get your friends and family involved, if we can start hitting the 10,000 level, that's where we can actually like hire somebody to help to move things along so we can be drawing the next book and getting it ready instead of
yep,
handling certain fulfillment things and other things. So we're really hoping to get to that point at some point here so that we can start offloading some of those responsibilities and just keep pumping out the stuff faster.
yep. That's always the hope and goal.
Yeah.
You know.
So that's been my although we've had like 70-degree weather yesterday, which was nice.
Oh yeah, I'm back in shorts again today.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
This has been my favorite winter ever. I'm sorry to all you global warming people, but if this is global warming, sign me up. I love it. I've only
Well,
had to do the driveway one time this year so far.
yeah, I barely shovel. I bought a new snowblower. That's why we don't have any snow.
Yeah.
I haven't even taken it out of the box. I bought this electric snowblower, and it was a pretty good deal. So I was like, okay, I need something to help out. Because shoveling, getting older, it's not good on the body,
Right.
and so I got a nice. And I don't have that big of a driveway, but I also got a little bit of sidewalk, like trying to clear it. The problem I have is when they do plow, they just throw it all right back up on it.
Yeah.
So I try to, we've had snow, is get out there, clear the driveway and the sidewalk as best I can, knowing that they're going to pile it back up. And if we get a lot of snow, it's just big giant boulders that ice over, and I can't.
Right.
I have to call the park and say, look, you guys got to come clear around the fire hydrants. We got a fire down here, and I tell them, I can't dig out what you guys put up there because it just becomes like ice real quick. So they need to. I think they need to come around and clear that out every time on their own. I don't care if they destroy the grass underneath because it'll grow back eventually. Hey, Kevin.
Hey,
There's
Kevin.
our buddy Kevin, our partner in Briarstone. So, and that, but yeah, so I've been enjoying this weather too. It's funny though. It's Michigan going. Let me just throw a little bit of everything at you this week. So we had a little bit of snow on Sunday. We've had some rain. We had a little bit of spring. I'm seeing leaves starting to slowly pop out in some of the smaller trees now. So, and listening to the way the birds sound, the way the animals been moving, stuff like that. Just because it warms up doesn't necessarily mean they move, but they've been moving for a while, and so they've all known. We've had a change that happened, even if we're not seeing the full warm up every day. It happened a few weeks ago, so it's been an early spring. So the groundhog was actually right for once in Punxsutawney, early spring this year. Of course, it's coming up. Like I said, next week is spring, and we got Sunday is St. Patrick's Day, or as Jameis has been promoting it, Saturday is pre St. Patrick's Day because there's a lot of people who won't be able to celebrate on Sunday because of being Catholic. I believe they cannot partake on Sunday unless the Catholic Church gives them a official letter saying you are welcome to now participate. So I think there's a lot of people doing it on Saturday anyways because people don't want to be out drinking on Sunday and have to go to work on Monday. But it's funny is they will do it on a Tuesday. So, but yeah, so St. Patrick's Day is this weekend. So everybody wear green and be Irish and drink to your heart's content of whatever you want to imbibe.
Yeah, it's hard to believe we just had the time change. Now Easter and is right around the corner. Spring is next week. I don't know if it's because the weather or what, but it really did fly by this winter like at insane speeds. But I feel like everything has been that way. We've talked before about ever since the COVID stuff. It's like time doesn't seem to move the same.
No, it's all been different. It's the Hadron Collider.
Yep.
Screwed up everything. And then with COVID, which I saw things posted from 4 years ago. Someone posted their
Yesterday.
letters they got. They posted, I saw today on a page for Disney when they were staying at the Polynesian when it all happened. The first letter was that the parks were closing, but they could stay in the resorts. And then it was, nope, the resorts are closing. We'll help you figure out how to get home. So
yeah, yesterday was the 4-year anniversary of the Michigan lockdown starting.
Yeah. Which is pretty much when everybody did. It was around yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And
so if you go back to 4 years ago, 4 years and 2 weeks ago to the odd musings, pretty much everything we talked about, the overhype of COVID, ended up being true. we were right. The medical experts were wrong.
Yeah. So. Well, it's it's and it's funny when I tell people it's a flu type virus. They're like, it's not the flu. It's much worse. I'm like, the flu is just as bad. And people can argue all they want. It is a variation of the flu that was weaponized. I don't care who you are, what you say, because I wouldn't do that. And I told people this. I said, you get sick. I said, the first thing you say is, do not put me on a ventilator. So
and they would listen, but they didn't listen. They still did it.
Oh no, they freaked out. Oh, you got to go on a ventilator right away. It's like, oh no.
Yeah.
So,
but
we're not going to talk COVID all hour. So.
Well, one last thing though, did you know the CDC quietly updated the protocols for COVID?
They do that all the time anymore.
So a couple weeks ago, it is now it's just if you have a fever, stay inside for 24 hours. Well, once you've been fever free for 24 hours, you're free to go. So there's no more 5-day quarantine or any of those. So it's just if you haven't had a fever for 24 hours, you're safe. Go out.
Mm-hmm. I'm waiting for the next update, which is just rub some dirt on it and go about your business.
Spit on it.
That's how we lived back in the 80s. Just rub some dirt on it.
Rub some dirt. Walk it off.
Get your mom to spit on you a little bit. It cleans everything.
Walk it off. Well, that's how we did everything.
Yeah, but yeah.
So we created some unstable jump, ride it with your bike, crash, walk it off. You're good.
Yep. No helmets.
No helmets.
Yep.
Play with broken glass.
Yeah. So let me pull this up here. And for those that don't know what we're talking we're talking about the Hadron Collider.
Oh yeah. Our alternate reality.
Yeah, the Large Hadron Collider here. This is all designed to. It's the most powerful particle accelerator. It's meant to help science. It was first started up on the 10th of September 2008, and that's when everything changed.
Yep.
So it's just it's an interesting science thing. I'm not gonna get into. You can read through it. We joke and say this stuff. Did it really change time? Who knows? I mean, I still blame Marty McFly. So, if he'd raced Flea at the end, he would have been fine. But that's that. So, but other than that, let's talk a little more fun stuff. I didn't talk. Scott and I talked for a long time last night about a few things, but none of this came up because I wasn't thinking about what to talk about. So, but I did watch the other day the new Millie Bobby Brown film, Damsel, on Netflix.
Oh,
do you still have Netflix?
I re-signed up for it. I have the basic subscription now.
Yeah, just came out last week. I was trying to find something to watch and saw this, and it's okay. It's done well. Not very, rewatchable in a lot of ways, but it wasn't bad to watch once. It's typical. She's a princess. She's forced to marry, and then they throw her into a pit with a dragon. So,
and she has to save herself, I assume.
Yes.
She doesn't need no man.
Yeah, she don't need no mans,
Yeah, if they
But
really wanted to do original content now and unique, cast a male as the hero.
yeah,
No one will know what to do with that.
yeah.
Like, what is this?
But it wasn't bad. I liked it for what it was.
Yeah.
I could watch it again if someone says, "Oh, I want to see it." So it's nothing I'll probably seek out very often, if at all. But if someone says, "Oh, I haven't seen that," will you watch everything? Yeah, I'll watch it with you. It wasn't
Okay.
bad. It was done well. I like Millie Bobby Brown. She's got more of her actual accent from England.
Hmm.
Um, which is funny. She has to. I saw was something she posted the other day about having to explain that that is my accent. Yeah, I've lived in both America and England, and I'm from England, and I
Hmm.
have an accent. But it's her. Of course, her accent's kind of muddled, over the years,
Yeah.
and she's young. She's only like 19, 20 years old. So, but it was good. I like see her. She's taking on these different roles. She wasn't playing a magic person or anything else. She was just a normal person. Of course, they had to set up a few things that she knew how to ride
Right.
and she knew how to do this or that, so she could deal with that. And then they give the story of what really is going on, who the real bad people are, and which you knew right away. They're still the bad people, and
Now, is she
also said,
playing a specific, like, famous fairy tale character? Who?
no, no,
Okay.
it's just it's kind of an
Original
original
character.
type story.
Okay.
It does have like a grim type, tale in terms of where it's like it's always something like, like here's the bad queen and they do this and you have to appease the creature. So they set it up from the beginning and you could tell exactly what's kind of going to happen from the beginning. I wasn't bored through the thing, but I was fine. I give it probably like a 7. Only
Okay.
because I didn't feel like it was wholly original. It felt a lot of different things from different stories I've heard over the years, but um, or seen on movies and things like that. But yeah, she wasn't bad. She was pretty good. Um, so I like the ending outcome with the bad people, the that she had to deal with and how they were dealt with. It was done
Yeah.
pretty quickly at the end. I thought it was pretty cool.
All right. How's
But
the overall, like, special effects and everything?
I give it probably like 8.5 on those. They did a really good job. I mean, they're spending
Okay.
some money on these. The thing with the Netflix films is like this. Most likely it got released overseas somewhere in the theaters.
Okay.
But and it could actually if they'd released it in the theaters and I saw the trailer, I might have been like, oh, let me go check this out. And because that's why I saw it here. It's like, oh, this looks interesting, and I
Right.
watched it. Without any premise, without watching a trailer really or anything. So, but if I saw it advertised for the theaters, I probably would have gone and seen it. Or wanted to go see it, I should say.
Nice.
Time is the hardest part with trying to get to the movies. I made it yesterday, and I'll talk about Dune in a little while, but
Yeah.
things like that. But so I watched that. It wasn't
Okay.
bad. And then the other one I'm watching, I'm not gonna get too much into either because it's still going on. Is and you can watch the repeats on Hulu, but it's on FX as well. Is Shogun,
Now,
and this
this
one
is
is good.
didn't they do this is based on books, and they did a series back in, like, the 80s or something, didn't they?
Yeah, the original the novel's by James Clavell, and he he's passed on, so his family kind of runs it now. But 1980 is when they did the original miniseries that I remembered uh, with Richard Chamberlain.
Yeah.
Um, so and I remember that one and enjoying that one. I remember watching it. I recorded it not as long ago. It was in the 90s at some point off on VHS because I wanted to watch it. I remember it was when I was working. I was like, okay, I'll set it to record it, come back and watch it. And I ended up watching the whole thing and liked it. And I thought it was very well done for 1980. I mean, they had
Right.
decent stuff. Now, if you go back, I'm going to share this tab. They're showing the trailer from the 81 right there.
Oh, yeah.
Very clear, very clean, look, stuff like that. The current one is very gritty looking. Uh, so it's not as clean looking as that. So they're showing like it's interesting. They're really trying to show okay, the Japanese people are very clean people and have been even back then, and have certain protocol things like that. And they're showing the grit of like the English guy who's the main character, and then the Portuguese stuff like that. So some of them, and they do a lot of more darker stuff. I think it's a little too dark in some ways. I think they could have lightened up just a bit for TV. But I like that they're not trying to keep it all daylight hours.
Mhm.
They've also, and I don't know how much they're bleeping on and covering up on FX, because it must be showing after 10 o'clock because they drop F bombs like crazy, and there's been some topless women. So,
Okay.
a little
Well,
bit
it's
of
probably like how they did the Vikings on the History Channel with the Vikings TV series. Is if you watched it on there, you got one version, but then if you watched it later is like, oh, there's all kinds of stuff in here they didn't have.
Yeah. Now they did have
Where'd
the
that come from?
one main female character, is Japanese. Last night she was in bed with the one guy, and I noticed that she was quite shadowed over her chest. So it depends on. I think she just didn't have nudity in her claws, but someone's that don't mind, you get a little topless nudity during, and they're not gratuitous sex scenes, but they have a couple of those here and there, or as the Japanese call it in the film, pillowing. So, yeah. Uh, so and all I could think of was pillow pets from Clerks 2. um, but
Yeah, I've
no,
heard
it's very
it's
good.
well done, the Shogun series.
I'm really enjoying it. I thought the entire series was on Hulu, and I started it the other couple weeks ago because they said, "Oh, the series is all on Hulu now." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, no, they're dropping it after it airs once a week, so I got to wait for another episode now. But it's one of those series you can't just put on and let it just run. You have to watch because there's a lot of subtitles because they are speaking Japanese, and reading about a couple of the actors in it. The Japanese actors, like, a couple people are like, "Hey, we're going to do this if there is Japanese actors in it. You're not just throwing any Asian in there saying they're Japanese," and they're trying to keep it as close to accurate as possible. And though there's a lot of inaccuracies in the story itself, I looked up a couple of things because I was like, okay, they're using like carrier pigeons. I looked up, no, they didn't know what a carrier pigeon was. There was no carrier pigeons back in 1600 Japan, feudal Japan era. That may have came later, and a couple other things. So not bad. I mean, it's one of these kind of suspend belief a little bit because this is not a factual tale. It is a fictional tale set in a
right.
historical time of Japan when there was the feudal wars. Basically, it was everybody was kind of broke off in different sectors and that. So,
Okay.
but done
Cool.
very well. Beautiful filming. I'm liking the acting, stuff like that. I think it's done very well for story. And I don't know how many episodes it is, but so far it's been really good.
Oh, good. Yeah, on our end, I haven't really watched anything new. We the other night we watched 2 nights ago. We did watch Wonka, the newer
Mm-hmm.
Wonka. Um, so I hadn't seen it since it was in the theater. Still holds up. Still just as enjoyable as a rewatch as when we saw it in the theater. So it's
Okay.
definitely it's got the rewatchability factor to it. Um, so that was enjoyable. And then last night we watched Yes Man with Jim Carrey, and Jill and I never saw that one. So I thought I saw it because it. I always thought Yes Man and Liar Liar in my memory was the same movie, but
Right.
because they're kind of the same premise. One is he always has to say yes. One is he always has to tell the truth.
Yeah.
So I'm watching, going, I haven't seen this before, and so I looked it up, and sure enough, they're two separate movies. So it was fun. It was a cute movie. Zoe Deschanel's in it, and there
Yeah.
that's his boss who is desperate for friends. So it's fun. I mean, basically, the basic premise is Jim Carrey's character. He says no to everything all the time. He doesn't like to be like his friends always want to go out. He says no. Yeah, it's always a reason not to do stuff, and he makes
Yeah.
excuses. Well, anyways, he goes to the seminar about the power of yes. So he reluctantly starts doing it, and things start changing for him, and then he becomes too much of a believer in saying yes and saying yes to everything, which then has its own consequence. So, but it's a good message. It was a fun movie.
Yeah, I remember this one. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I saw like Bradley Cooper's in it, Zoe Deschanel. Um, yeah, it's definitely been around for a little while, so it's got a decent cast list. I mean, I like the people.
Yeah.
Danny, oh, newly convicted Danny Masterson's in it. Terrence Stamp.
Actually, when I saw him in, I'm like, wow, I'm surprised this movie wasn't canceled.
Well, he's a bit part in that. Sasha Alexander, who I like in Rizzoli and Isles, she was on NCIS the first couple seasons,
NCIS.
and I
Yep.
forgot. Oh, Rocky Carroll, current NCIS.
Also NCIS.
Yeah, so definitely a lot of people. Oh, Patrick Laboratory. He is also from JAG, which went into NCIS. And he did guest on NCIS, and so there's must be some tie in there somewhere with somebody.
I wonder if the producer or something.
Yeah, must be someone that knows all those people producing and that.
Right.
So, but yeah, I remember that movie. It wasn't bad. I mean, that was kind of the turn for Jim Carrey. He'd done like Bruce Almighty, Liar Liar. You got Yes Man, and it was kind of becoming more felt all the same in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Slightly different setups and things like that, but the outcome in a lot of ways was very much the same. And I think he was just fulfilling contracts in some ways. That's my
I
personal
feel like
feeling.
with Jim Carrey, I feel like it was a phase in his life too, where like the Truman Show, Yes Man, where he was exploring like
Mm-hmm.
the power of reality and what can you change your own reality by doing so. I don't know, but
Yeah,
there were interesting sets of movies there. The Eternal Sunshine of a Mind, or I forget what, Spotless
yeah.
Mind, or whatever.
Well,
And
I would say like Truman Show. He was really trying to go more dramatic,
mhm,
and then but it did carry into like when he did like Bruce Almighty, Yes Man, Liar Liar. They kind of were following that similar pattern there, and he kind of got caught in that same trap. But same thing like
yeah,
McConaughey got caught in that for a while when he did all these rom coms.
yeah,
And that's all he was doing. You know, it's got and same thing. Carrie's getting off. He's getting offered, hey, $20 million. Here's your movie. Okay, you know, he's
right.
just showing off, showing up in that. But then you get to like the Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I know what you're talking about there. I think that one was one that kind of stretched him a little more as an actor because it
Mhm.
wasn't just your typical thing. Um, you know, it was definitely a little different than his normal stuff like that. And I think that's also a lot of why he's backed off of acting a lot lately. He's doing a few things here and there, but yeah, Eternal Sunshine came out in '04, so he's all in that mode there. That came out after Bruce Almighty, um, you know, so stuff like that. I pulled up his thing here. Oh, he's playing the Hermit in the Bad Batch. I didn't know that. Uh,
Really?
Maybe it's a different Bad Batch. It's got to be a different one. That can't be Star Wars. Yeah, it's some movie called The Bad Batch.
Oh, okay.
So I never heard of that. So okay, um, you know, things like that. So I think he's tried to do different things. I think also you know, he got caught up in these just really dumb movies like Mr. Popper's Penguin, stuff like that. I think a lot of it was just,
Yeah.
hey, here's money. Okay, I'll show up.
Mm.
And I think for a long time he himself was he even talked about himself. He's kind of dealt with different issues mentally, but I think he got lost in the money and his ability of doing these stupid movies sometimes. So
Well, he also is interesting. Like people talked about meeting him on different sets and stuff. How he does this method acting where he becomes the character, and
yes,
he doesn't break character even when they're done filming. So, who was it? One actor was talking about he got the chance to meet Jim Carrey. He was so excited, and he was filming Man on the Moon.
yeah, that would have been what. Yeah, that one there. He's before I started filming that he embodied Kaufman and would not break
Would
character.
not break character. Yeah, so this actor went there to meet Jim Carrey, and he's like the whole time I got to know Andy Kaufman. He goes, I never met Jim Carrey when I went.
Yeah, and that was the thing. But I mean, I thought that was a very well done film. I always thought it
Oh
was
yeah,
interesting because I believe he's a almost a foot taller than I could be wrong. I
yeah,
mean, Andy Kaufman was as tall, but he really embodied who Andy Kaufman was as a comedian and a person. And I mean, when you see the bits and stuff he did, I'm going, yeah, that's the Kaufman I remember, not just from Taxi, but from Saturday Night Live and what little bit you'd see him pop up on the other stuff when I could catch it late nights. Because I was a teenager when he died. I was 13, but um, Kaufman died. But it was seeing the stuff that was repeats, things like that over the years. Um, he was definitely an oddball comedian
yeah,
who, and to embody that, I think it was something that Carrie was, and when he did that, it was like that had to have been a mental toll on him because that's as goofy as Carrie can be, Coffin wasn't goofy. He was just playing out weird goofball
yeah.
intentionally. Everything he did was intentional. So
Speaking of mental tolls, I'll give this really quick update
mhm.
too. So for Star Wars fans out there, you'll know who Jake Lloyd is. He played young Anakin in Star Wars Episode One, and his mother recently, for a long time, we've had no updates on him. He kind of just vanished from the scene, and he used to do a lot of comic book conventions, and he was in a bunch of movies. He was in what was the one where Schwarzenegger? He was on the hunt for the toy
Oh,
Action Man.
Jingle All the Way.
Jingle All the Way. He was, yeah. So he was in that movie, and he was in other ones too. Um, but there were a lot of speculations around why isn't he around and stuff. Anyways, the mother gave an update that he was diagnosed with schizophrenia years back, and he's been struggling with that, and what comes from that. So sounds like overall he's doing well, all things considered. But she talked about answered some of the questions that people have had over the years, like did Star Wars cause him to get out of acting, and he said no. She said no, it was schizophrenia, and his sister, when she passed away, he kind of broke from that whole deal
Mhm.
in dealing with that. But if you look it up, you could just type in Jake Lloyd update, and you'll see all the articles that came out, so you can read the full thing. But it's good to know, he's getting the help he needs, and
Well, and that's good. You met Jake.
yeah,
I know I met him over the years. The last time I saw him was probably 13 years ago, because he was 2021 at the time, and it's one of the
yep.
last times I saw him at a Comic-Con and talked to him.
Yeah, his family used to go to all the Comic Cons with him, and like I was telling Brett, I just weird circumstances when you do these shows, you end up on the same circuit sometimes as certain celebrities, and they kind of get to know you just through regular. Back then we would have the after parties and different things where us as the artists and stuff, we'd be at the same event as the celebrities afterwards. Like they seem
Mhm.
to have done away with those now, but it used to be a regular occurrence. So you got to actually know these guys behind the scenes or have a drink with them or whatever. And I got invited one time to have dinner with Jake and his mom and his sister. So I
Yeah.
got to meet all of them and just went out to dinner with them. And it was a nice experience. They very down to earth family, and um, no idea why he invited me. I know I did a sketch card of him as at that time. I want to say episode 2 or 3 was out. I forget what. And so I drew him as Anakin with the scar and so that would have been episode 3 because with the scar, or the Clone War series was out, something like that. Anyways, he really liked it, and I got to see them. But so it was kind of sad when you saw all the stuff happening where he was disappearing and stuff. So, but it sounds like he's getting the help he needs now, so that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard with schizophrenia. I had a cousin who had schizophrenia, and the hard part is, and from reading her response, she covers some of this too in her thing. What happens is the medications required uh, to function with schizophrenia makes them feel very numb to the
Mhm.
world. So what happens is they start doing better and better and better, and then they stop taking their meds. Because they hate how it makes them feel.
Right.
So they get off the med, and so they establish themselves. They get jobs again, all this stuff, and then they stop taking their meds, and then the episodes start coming back, and then their whole life kind of implodes again until they hit rock bottom again, where they end up going back on the meds. And so it's this constant cycle. And I know my cousin went through it, where, and when you're off the meds, it's crazy. Like my cousin thought he was um, the love child of JFK and someone else, and that the FBI was constantly after him and hiding in bushes and chasing them down. It's interesting how, and when I hear other people talk about it, it's always these paranoia events where somehow the government's chasing them. And it's interesting the similarities I hear in other stories that with what my cousin would say. But then when he was on the meds, he was fine and he could function, he could have a job. So it was this constant cycle, and it sounds like from what I read on what she said that kind of occurs here too.
Yeah. Well, there's the movie Beautiful Mind kind of deals with that.
Yep.
Uh I think it's I don't know if anybody can ever truly capture what people go through with that, but that
Yeah.
dealt with one version of the schizophrenia, with this seeing people and seeing things and dealing with
Mm-hmm.
people and learning how to get through that and stuff like that. And that's based on a real person and some of his talking about that. And it is, the meds can help to regulate, but definitely they're not the same person they were before everything took hold.
Right.
So, but I hope Jake gets better. He was, like I said, he was a great kid when I saw him, and he was a kid in the shows, and real nice. I actually took a couple things at times for people that wanted me to have him sign stuff, and was always very gracious about it. And
Mm-hmm.
he knew my friend Hugh down in Tennessee because he did a couple of Tennessee shows when I was
Yep.
there, and stuff like that. So so I'm glad to hear that they're working on next something that, unfortunately, it's the rest of his life struggle.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah. So
All
then
right.
also we've also got Bad Batch, because we both been
Oh
watching
god,
that.
that has been so amazing. I did not watch. So they released 2 episodes this morning. It looks like.
Yeah, I had gotten up. I woke up a little earlier than I planned on it, so I was like, "Well, I might as well watch them." And I watched the episode. I popped it. I was like, 2 episodes. Like, sweet. It makes sense. It's almost like a two-parter. It needed both episodes. So instead of doing one, I like that he's sticking them all the same length, basically, or around
Yeah.
that half hour bit. Instead of saying, "Oh, we'll just drop an hour-long episode," it's like, nope, we'll break them up. We'll call it, 2 parts.
And that's one
And
nice thing with the streaming services is they can make these kind of decisions where it's like, you know what, this is these 2 episodes are better to be binged together, so we're going to release them together instead
yeah,
of breaking it apart for a week. You know, they have
yeah.
more freedom than the network TVs did.
Well, kind of where we're at without talking about this week's episodes are we've got Crosshairs back with the team. There's been a lot of tension. We got Crosshair and Omega finally met back up with Hunter. Uh, and Echo's now back around too. So they've been kind of slowly bringing everybody back together
Yeah.
this season, which I liked. It's a bring the band back together type
Yep.
part of the series right now. And they're dealing with a lot of stuff that plays out later on in Star Wars movies. That we're getting the more of the cloning, the Emperor's cloning. They've been talking about the M count without calling it midichlorians. That's popped up several times. Definitely, if you haven't been watching this and you like Star Wars, go back and start with season 1. You don't necessarily have to get into this right away, but it would definitely help with some of the backstory on Omega, things like that. So, and I like, it's kind of funny. It's as much as I enjoy. Oh, speaking of which, I'm about to do a sidebar here, but the prequels, when they prequels come, it's kind of like, well, you kind of know where it's going to go, but you still wanted to see it, and that's how I feel with this. You kind of know the end result because the movie's around it, but you like seeing this journey that's going on. It's not about the destination with these; it's really the journey. But the reason I mentioned prequels in the sidebar is I just saw they're going to release all the prequels in the original trilogy again in the theaters in 4K.
Yep, in 4K
in May.
Yep.
So I'm like, oh man, I guess I'm gonna be trying to see the movies a lot.
Yeah, I definitely will want to see them. Question is, are they what version, and will it be a new version? Will Greedo be yelling malarkey or whatever macaque?
Well, this is the Disney versions of them in terms that they own, which I believe is special editions on is what they technically own. I mean, they own everything, but
will there be even more stuff? Will this be the new Disney cut where there's even more?
Yeah, you'll be walking, and also because of Stormtrooper, and he's got Mickey ears,
Yeah, there'll be product placement and everything, kind of like that. Did you see the advertisement from what was it, Chili or something, where they had to slip in the beer commercial?
Yeah,
into
that was and so you got
your dad wanted you to have this.
I was gonna get a beer. Hands him a beer. It's actually really funny.
They perfectly placed it the way
they did a great job with it because that's the only way they could do commercials or something, I guess. But no, I think we're gonna ask me the Disney cut. So instead of the Wilhelm screaming with the goofy,
yeah, as they're racing, like their pod racing, Anakin's gonna have to pull over, and then he's gonna get out, and he's gonna have the lightsaber shop at Disney World, where he built a new thing.
Oh, I gotta go there. Galaxy's Edge now open. Disney World and Disneyland. Yeah. Look over in the next car. It's not one of the normal guys. It's Mickey Mouse going, "Hey, pal."
yeah. All the pod racers are now Disney characters instead of the aliens.
Yep.
Goofy's taking the lead.
Yeah, well, I assume it's going to be the special editions for the original trilogy, and then the prequels will be there'll be the prequels with the ending of the third one, or they'll tie in at the end of Return of the Jedi. It'll probably be Hayden still, and then all that stuff. I doubt they're going to actually add anything in. They might, you never know. I mean, they always can, but going 4K, they've probably gone in and cleaned up some more stuff, stuff like that. So. As much people kind of slammed even on the special editions, I didn't mind them. I mean, they only added a couple scenes here and there. They added more. Most stuff was all background stuff, and droids coming across. Make it feel more full on the screen. Than
my only issues have been getting rid of Greedo shooting first.
Yep.
I don't like the new celebration song at the end of Return of the Jedi. I wish they kept it to the Ewok song that was playing in Celebration.
Yeah.
And then hate young Anakin instead of old Anakin for the Force Ghost. Those are the only 3 things that I personally don't care for.
Yeah.
But everything, all the other changes, I think enhanced.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like they switched special editions, of course, after the prequels came out. So the 97 special editions of Star Wars are different than the 2005 ones
Right.
are. And the main difference is the adding Hayden in
Hmm.
and tying it in that way. And I kind of understood what Lucas is going for there, since he had a young Anakin now. He
Hmm.
figured, well, when he redeemed himself and it was no longer Dark Lord, his Force Ghost went back to being what he was prior to
Right.
turning to the dark side.
Yeah.
So,
Although now, so while I don't like that change, and I still don't like the change, I can accept the change because now it gives us the ability to have Hayden now play
yes.
Force Ghost Anakin, and that I'm totally on board with.
And that's what
Like
we've
the
been
way they
seeing
did
with
it in Ahsoka
Ahsoka.
was
Yep.
perfect.
Yeah, and he's really gotten back into it. I mean, he took a break from a lot of stuff for Star Wars. I mean, he took a lot of flack. Still not as much as Ahmed Best with Jar Jar, but he still took a lot of flack as Anakin for being flat and everything. So it's like,
Yeah.
character was written that way. I mean, if he had the writing that was given in the Clone Wars cartoon,
Hmm.
yeah, people really liked that Anakin. Well, yeah, we got a chance to
Yeah.
actually see Anakin more. This, they kept him as a kind of a, when George wrote him as a little more whiny brat up
Yeah.
until, and then also it's like, okay, I'm in love. Okay, I'm a bad guy.
Well, even George Lucas is on record in interviews at the time saying he wanted Anakin's emotions to be flat, which I thoroughly disagreed with as a direction for the character because, like, the best scenes for Anakin were when he on Mustafar when he's yelling, "I hate you," the emotion flowing. Uh, Episode 2 when he after he slaughtered the Sand People and he's saying to Padme,
Padme.
"I hate them." Uh, let let to me it should have been more erratic the behavior to explain why emotionally he was being pulled. It was the emotions and the fear of losing Padme that led him to the dark side. I just felt like going with this flat emotion kind of took away from that journey. So
Yeah.
I disagree with Lucas's directive decision on how Anakin should be played, but that's not Hayden's fault. That was Lucas's call.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he played the role as was given to him.
Yep, and
And
he
I
did
think,
great for what was given to him.
yeah. And if you watch other stuff he's done, Hayden's, I think he's a fine actor,
Yeah.
My Life as a House is one I mentioned before and stuff like that. So it's definitely
Mhm.
check him out on some other stuff. And he definitely was really good. And with the way they wrote him for Ahsoka and even
Mhm.
Obi-Wan.
Yeah. And then the only other issue with Anakin as a character, once again, came back to Lucas. It was like the scenes where Anakin is kind of hitting on Padme, they're kind of creepy. Like they're not good. But George Lucas doesn't know how to write romance. He was trying to write like this developing, budding relationship. He was better when he was writing like Leia and Han, where it was snippy and sarcastic back and
Well,
forth, and there was this
and a lot
tension
of
that
things though
way.
with when he got to Empire and Return of the Jedi, he was just given the synopsis and someone else was
Right.
writing that.
And someone else
So
wrote that.
yeah, so and I think that's what he should have done with these was here's the synopsis and here's my story, and had somebody come in. I mean, even in the
Yeah.
original Star Wars, it's been widely talked about that. Marsh actually came in and helped him, work on some of the
Right.
dialogue, work on some of the stuff there to kind of bring it
Had,
around better. So
had Lucas taken the story for the 3 prequels, the exact story, and just gave it to the Kasdans to write, the prequels and then gave it to Spielberg to direct. Spielberg wanted to direct all 3 movies.
right,
He wanted to, and Lucas he only gave him the final battle. Spielberg directed the final battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin. But had Lucas wrote the synopsis, Kasdan
Mhm.
write the screenplay, and Spielberg shot it, oh my god, the prequel, all the same exact story, would have been phenomenal.
Yeah, I definitely, because I mean Lawrence Kasdan is just a fantastic writer in his own right. He can direct for sure. He's done a lot of great stuff over the years. I mean, we know him from like Star Wars. A lot of people know him from Star Wars. He did Raiders of the Lost Ark. He was a writer on that. But he did movies like Big Chill. He was a writer for that.
Mhm.
Silverado. He wrote Wyatt Earp, which is not one of my favorite versions of the Wyatt Earp story. That was the one with this one with Costner. I thought it was well done, a little more historical. I
Mhm.
like Tombstone better because I like the more fictionalized version of it.
Yep.
Um, stuff like that. But if you go back and read, or not read, but see all the stuff he's worked on over the years, he was, the screenplay was one of
Right.
the people writing on Empire. I said
Yep.
Start Return of Jedi, Big Chill, The Excellent Taurus, another it's actually a pretty good film. Grand Canyon was a good film, so he can write a lot of different
Well,
genres.
and what's powerful with Kasdan is he's an amazing writer, but
Mhm.
B, he understands Star Wars. And it's hard to get that combination. There's a lot of great writers out there who don't understand Star Wars.
Right.
Kasdan does.
Well, and this thing, and then he's got his son Jonathan, who he brought in. And they worked on
Yep.
Solo together,
Yep.
and so and he understands Star Wars. So
Solo is such a good rewatchable movie.
yeah,
It's a fun movie. They did a great job with what and Howard did phenomenal at saving the movie from what they were creating originally.
yeah,
That movie really had they just now I can accept what's his name, Alden, what's his name, the one that played Solo.
yeah. The one you've
I,
always said that you really wish
yeah,
was a different guy, but
Groot, yeah, the other one should have been cast, but with how well it was written, I can accept the version they gave us
yeah,
because it was written right. Um, Now, had they cast the other guy, oh my god, it would have been phenomenal. We would have had three Han Solo movies that they cast the other guy.
yeah. So, but like I said, his son can definitely write too. So I think that Jonathan sounds like he's gonna try to continue on working in that. They've not got him listed for anything right now, but I think he's someone that even if his dad's not actually doing the writing and he can talk to his dad, it's like that would be the way. I think Filoni can write, Favreau can write. You get the Kazdans involved, they can definitely get a great collaboration on where they
Yeah.
want to go with the writing on all these movies and stuff going forward. So
Well, and speaking of which, back to Bad Batch,
yeah,
we really, as we talked about last night, what we are seeing here, in my opinion, is we are really seeing the growth in Filoni as a storyteller. He's been a phenomenal storyteller all along, but you're really seeing him get the nuance in there now to really hit emotional buttons and make it really powerful.
yeah, and I'm a couple of things you haven't seen yet is of course Ventress is supposed to make an appearance.
Yep.
You said there was rumors of Vader popping up.
Yeah, I
Uh,
read Vader's coming
yeah,
for a
he's not in
couple
these episodes
episodes.
this week. He
Okay,
wasn't. So I would assume he's going to show up at some point, anyways, just because
maybe the finale.
towards the end, I think, yeah, I can see that wrapping up, tying in. I'm really excited to see how this plays out towards the end with Omega, the Bad Batch, where they all end up at, because we know we don't see them again through any of the other stuff, at least not directly. Now,
Yeah, my prediction is Vader is gonna, because they're so good and powerful as a unit. It's going to take someone like Vader to defeat them, and I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of sadness in the finale here,
and it's very possible we may see,
like
he
a
end up
Rogue One
everybody.
ending.
Yeah, and it's very possible, and that, but it could also be something where we see something tie in, and then we're able to see.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like even with the Rebels, they weren't in the now they did tie the one actor from Return of the Jedi as Captain Rex, though he never was back then because there was no Captain Rex back in
Right.
1983. So they were able to use him and say, okay, yeah, this is what Captain Rex became. So
Which
they
is
could tie
funny
that.
because that was actually a fan theory originally, and then
Yeah,
they worked it. They took the fan theory and worked it in.
yeah,
So I thought that was cool that they're like, you know what, we can make that happen.
yeah. And then we might see where they all end up like, okay, like at the end of Rebels, we saw that Ahsoka was kind of gone, but the Rebels were all fighting on the outer skirts and everything. Well, the main story we know, there was other stuff going on.
Right.
And then now we know with Ahsoka what happened to them from the 5 years after Jedi and where they're at now. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they tie that in. I'm sure Filoni. Here's one of my theories on this is I think whatever Filoni's doing here to end up is going to end up in the Mandalorian movie.
I can totally see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there'll be something that'll cross over there.
Is that
Um, Go
is
ahead.
that the next thing to come out, the Mandalorian movie, or do we have something in between?
No, that's the next thing. That's
Okay.
the only thing that's
Yeah.
listed right now officially.
Yeah, because I think
Um,
Ahsoka season 2 would be after.
yeah, Star Wars. Yeah, Ahsoka season 2. I think it's gonna be the Filoni movie, which is going to theaters. Ahsoka season 2 has been green light, and Andor 2 will get its finish up here pretty soon. Um, and then really, there's not much listed after that. I mean, we've got the one chick talking about she's going to be making the
The
Ray
Ray
movie,
movie.
and
They
I
keep
see,
talking about it, but
yeah, I see stuff pop up, but it's the same thing we've seen on other stuff. Like for a few years, I was like, oh well, they're in pre-production for the Ryan Johnson films, and they never were.
they never were.
I think it's just I think it's one, it's clickbait part of it, and then I could still see them trying to like drop stuff like, oh yeah, no, there's work going on there.
Yeah.
And then someone like, I've heard from an inside source, and really the only thing we've heard is that Filoni is now the creative director of Lucasfilm. He's working with
Yeah.
Kathleen Kennedy, who was told to be just the finances.
Yeah. The only part that's throwing me off is Daisy Ridley herself is talking about it.
And I think that's
So-
because Kathleen Kennedy still went to her and said, "Hey, you're going to be in this. We're going to do this, and I'm
Right.
pushing it forward." And so but I've noticed something too is initially when all that stuff came out, she's talking about it, nothing sense. That one director said a bunch
Right.
of stuff, nothing sense. And I think
And
what
even
it
the
is
stuff
just
Daisy Ridley saying, she was in an interview recently. It's just speculation on her part, and she says there's no script yet. There's nothing she's basing this on.
right.
So I think it was just like a pre-meeting about the concept of, would you be interested if we can do this? And then Kathleen Kennedy acting like it's a done thing, like it's really happening. But I think
Right.
it's just like a lot of projects get to that initial green light stage, but then never go anywhere.
Yeah, it's like
So we'll
a
see.
article from yesterday or 2 days ago now on GameSpot. So again, another just oddball site. She knows bits and bobs, as she calls it, about the film.
Yeah.
Still hasn't seen the script. She's waiting to read a script. So there's the thing is, that's fine. But if they do what this director says they're going to do, no one's going to want to go see it.
Right. Yep.
So
we do have that Sith Acolyte, but that's the High Republic era.
Yeah.
But that is supposed to come out, I think, this year. I think
Yeah,
it's
that's
done.
Yeah, that's going to be on Disney Plus. So
Yeah, but that's a different era in Star Wars.
Yeah.
So
And last thing is, I did go see Dune Part 2. Now you can watch Part 1. I think is on like Prime has it. I think a couple spots have it for streaming if you haven't seen Part 1. The thing with Dune, and Scott and I talked about this is, I like Blade Runner. Scott wants to like Blade Runner, but doesn't like Blade Runner.
I love the universe they created. I love the visuals, but I find it so boring.
Yeah. Now these Blade Runner sequel, I didn't care for because I felt like it was just way too much the original movie rehashed through the whole thing. I felt like it didn't develop the characters at all. It was just like, hey, we're just gonna throw you back in there, and Harrison Ford's old, and we're just gonna have him redo the role again. And that's what it felt like with the. I've only watched the sequel the one time at the theaters. That's the last time I've watched it. Okay. The original one, I've watched the multiple different cuts. Now, of course, the original always gets a little trash with it. You've got the original cut in the theaters, which had the voiceover, and people were like, oh, I like that one best. Well, that was originally, that's not what it was. This reason they did that was afterthought, is the studio said, oh, well, nobody's going to understand this. We need to have a voiceover explaining, when they call them, this or that it's actually a derogatory term. And I'm like, you can pick that up without it. And it's true with it. We see the director's cut without the voiceover. I think it's a much better film.
Yeah.
And then you get the international cut and another cut where they add like a minute or two in. After the really director's cut, anything after that where there's no voiceover, those are all, in my opinion, pretty much the same. But I like those films. It was really good in my opinion, and I enjoyed those a lot. I watched them over the years. Dune, the original Dune from '84, I think it was, the Dino De Laurentiis produced one. It's definitely the basic story of Dune that we know. They're on Arrakis. You got the worms, you got spice, and everything else. This is taken a step further. I'm sure they, reading a little bit more, it sounds like they have pulled away from the book some way to incorporate certain things into the story. They're tying in colonialism, which has kind of always been a theme there anyways. But they're also tying in, without calling them Muslims, a more Muslim-style heritage for the Fremen, and similar in beliefs and how they pray and things like that. So you see some similarities in that. Without them getting into saying it's a Muslim Islamic religion, and that. So, and adds a lot to the characters there. And they've definitely taken this a lot further than the other movies have, including the miniseries back when late 90s. Film wise, I think both films are beautiful shot films. I mean, just great style, great look. I saw it in the IMAX for Imagine, which is the bigger screen, kind of like an IMAX. Sounds great. I think actually Timothée Chalamet there has been really good in this. He was,
it also shows his range with Wonka compared to his role in this.
Yeah. And you can also see during one scene when he's learning how to kind of walk through the desert, you're supposed to change a thing, how it looked a little Wonka-esque. But
he started singing and doing twirls.
Well, I wasn't singing, but you kind of have to dance around a little bit. And I felt like a couple of times his movements felt a little Wonka-esque, or maybe he brought that to Wonka. 'Cause I think they filmed part 2 right after part 1. They were filming it, they just didn't say anything. It was
Yeah,
all
I think
during
they
COVID. They had to shut down for
right.
COVID, and then they had to come back up. Um, but, yeah, I liked it a lot, and it's one of those films that, not everybody's gonna like these type of science fiction films. They're not fast paced, they're not high action. Had some good fight scenes, had some good a good battle at the end. But there is a lot of storytelling and a lot of intrigue, and it does bounce between a couple different parts. But they all are what's converging towards the end, so they need to be told in different ways. And I thought they expanded nicely on the Harkonnen side, which in the original film they called Harkonnens. This one they call it Harkonnen. They call it Harkonnen or something. I don't know, something a little different. But definitely, I if you like those type of films, Dunes. If you haven't watched part 1, watch part 1. If you can, go see part 2. They do give a nice explanation if you see part 2 without seeing part 1. Um, but I think the break they did between 1 and 2 is good. And this is not a spoiler, in my opinion. They basically at the end, it's not a hard ending. Because there is still in the books, even there were several books, so there's a lot more story to tell. So instead of acting like it's a hard ending like the first film felt like, this one's set up where I think we'll see a part 3 announced down the road here because it's doing pretty well. It was number 2 this past weekend, was still 46 million, and worldwide it's pulled in $374 million already. So
yeah, and if they go into a part 3, they really will be covering territory that the previous movie or miniseries never covered. Correct?
Well, the Sci-Fi Channel did do Dune and Children of Dune, so that
Okay.
covered more past that. But I think the way they're going about it's a lot different. So
Yeah.
But I recommend it. I really enjoyed it.
And the
Glad it
Rotten
wasn't my favorite.
Tomato score is very high for both critics and audience, which usually they're opposite. Like one will be
Yeah,
high and the other low. So this
yeah,
is pleasing both groups.
yeah. It's definitely getting some good reviews. Like right now on the audience rating on Google shows 4.6, which is really good. IMDb is 8.9, Rotten Tomatoes to 93%, Metacritic 79%. So it says 95% of Google users like this movie. So it's definitely up there. And with a budget of 190 million, it's already surpassed that by double worldwide. I think, and it's got a good cast. Timothy Chalamet's great as Paul Atreides. Austin Butler was really good in this. He played the same role that Sting did back in the 80s one. Zendaya has really been great in both films. There's Shania. Florence Pugh plays Princess Aurelian. She's not in it tons, but she was really good. Rebecca Ferguson playing Lady Jessica has been fantastic. Christopher Walken plays the Emperor. Which to me, I was I forgot he was the Emperor when he pops up on screen. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Baron Vladimir Harkonnen is Stellan Skarsgård. He was really good. Josh Brolin's back in this one. Javier Bardem. So I mean, it's a really great cast on that. And I think the only thing they could have done different to make it even better is if Christopher Walken walked out and said, "What this planet needs is more cowbell."
That would have been nice.
Yeah. Bring the cowbell with the spice.
The spice.
Yeah,
I wish I could do a good Christopher Walken impression.
I can't do as well, but he carried the cowbell in his ass.
Did you ever see Jay Moore's account of meeting Christopher Walken while he was walking his dog?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Oh my god, I can watch that over and over again. It's so funny.
It's been a long time since I saw that. But Walken was good though.
Yeah.
But it was funny though. He's still just walking. So but yeah, so that's basically it for me this week. That's what I've done.
Yeah.
This weekend, just doing a lot of working, prepping, getting everything together to head out of town next week for Indiana Comic-Con.
Nice.
We'll talk more about that week. I'll get you guys some table locations next week. I know I've seen them. I just haven't had a chance to extract them and do everything with them. So, but Kevin and I each have Artist Alley tables this time. So
nice.
So not together, somewhere else, separate places too. So that's it.
All right.
Anything else?
Another week. Another week is in the books.
All right. Hey, we'll see you next week, guys.
Take care.
Have a good St. Patrick's Day. Bye.